Good afternoon. Welcome to the Cincinnati Green Building Tour Series, which is hosted by Chuck Laurie of Green Cincinnati Education in partnership with USGBC Ohio. The events are sponsored by the Sustainability Partnership of Cincinnati, First National Bank, Cincinnati Modern, Hvac Design Partners, Solar Energy Solutions, and Third Sun Solar. Thank you all for your support. I'll take you on a quick review of our agenda. First, we'll do a bit of housekeeping. We'll do some partner overview as well as our sponsors. And then we'll dive into the tour. We'll do an overview of both design and technical insights. We'll have a bit of time for audience Q&A and then some wrap up. So for our housekeeping, please be sure to mute yourself and keep your camera off. This helps with bandwidth. Please introduce yourself in the chat box, add your name, company, location, as well as rename yourself on the participant bar. We're having a little glitch with that, so please do rename yourself. For the best viewing, turn on non-video participants. During the presentations, feel free to add your questions at any time in the chat box and we'll address them during the Q&A. And we'll be doing some follow-ups, so we'll be sending you a recording of the PowerPoint and the PDF as well. So just to give you a little introduction, my name is Mary Ellen Etienne, and I'm from USGBC Ohio, and I'm also with the ENC region here, which covers Ohio, Indiana, Michigan, and Illinois. And we're really pleased to be working with the presenters here to do the tour series and to host this virtual platform. USGBC is changing the way we build buildings and build communities. And we are looking to kind of transform how they're designed, built, and operated. Here in Ohio, we work together to advance green building in the state. There are well over 4,000 LEED certified projects in Ohio with over 150 million square feet. One of our top bragging points, and this is thanks to Cincinnati, is we're number 7 nationally in LEED homes, and thanks in part to the city, its tax abatement, and the industry's strong support in the area. Now I'm going to pass it to my colleague Chuck Laurie, who will introduce you to our sponsors and our speakers. Take it over. Go ahead, Chuck.
Well, thank you, Mary Ellen. These tours have been sponsored since 2014 by the Sustainability Partnership of Cincinnati. It's a group of companies that have gotten together to market sustainable products and services. The next slide. And those members are Greenbow, Steve Hampton, and Tony Beck. That's Steve's house on Walnut Street that we had toured earlier. Green Building Consulting is Paul Yankee and Jeremy Begley here are participants with this company's groups. They do LEED for homes rating. And if you want to build a LEED home, the first step you need to do is to contact a LEED rater, and Green Building Consulting is a rater that's our sponsor. Next slide. This is my company. I do LEED commercial documentation, green education, green marketing. Greener Stock is Heather Curlis's business on Eastern Avenue, and it's a one-stop shop for everything that's sustainable that would go in a home, from the proper documentation for the cabinets that you'd order, flooring, wall treatments, excellent sustainable products. Next slide. Green Streets Live Roof of Cincinnati is Ben Haggerty's company. They do this is the green roof on City Hall plus stormwater mitigation. Next slide. One Small Garden is Julian Gardner's company. They use native cedars to make raised beds and outbuildings and chicken coops. Pattern Concrete of Cincinnati's Paul Schneider. Concrete, pattern concrete, color concrete has become very popular as a heat sink with passive home design. Tepe Services will help you with non-light polluting landscape lighting for your home, as well as irrigation systems that don't turn on when it's raining. Solar Energy Solutions is Julie Jones. They wide array of projects in the tri-state here, commercial and residential solar. Next slide. And Third Sun Solar, they also do residential and commercial solar properties. And Third Sun Solar works with Solarize Cincinnati as a qualified contractor. HVA Design Partners. Jeremy, you say a few words about your company? I think he's on mute, but Jeremy's a new partner of ours. This is strictly a design, HVA design. The designer is being required now as a preliminary part of your application for green buildings. Did you want to say something about that, Jeremy?
Yeah, I will. I'm sorry that the program had me muted. Hi, I'm Jeremy Begley. I'm one of the founding partners of HVAC Design Partners. We're a HVAC design firm that also offers test and balance and commissioning services, and we specialize in custom high performance residential and light commercial buildings. The other partner in partners is Paul Yankee, the CEO of Green Building Consulting. We founded the firm in 2018 because we saw a big need for these services in green building, and as building code starts to catch up and require full HVAC design. And we're very in tune to the homes and buildings seeking green program certification, and we can add a really nice value add to that to make the process seamless in those areas, because we've been in that market for a combined 20 years between the two of us.
Well, thanks, Jeremy. And I'm really glad that you're bringing these new equipment to the market, very, very small HVAC units. Thanks, Jeremy.
You're welcome, Chuck. Thank you for having me.
David Smith, would you say something about your company, your certification?
Hi, Chuck. I'm David Smith. I'm with the Cincinnati Modern team at Keller Williams Advisors, and I am designated by the National Association of Realtors as a green realtor. And I've learned a lot more than the average real estate agent, not only about resource efficient homes, but more specifically about how to help buyers appreciate those benefits and help them buy them, but most importantly, how to differentiate those homes in the marketplace and successfully market those homes for sale.
Great. You got to add that solar panels into that evaluation. And this is our latest sponsor, First National Bank. They are a regional Southwest Ohio bank, Dayton, Cincinnati, Hamilton area, and they're interested in helping homeowners with their financing for new remodeling and solar panel installation. So we'll be hearing more from Brooke Taylor. And now I'd like to introduce Sarah Kleiner with Envisage Homes. Known Sarah for a long time. She's been active with the sustainable building movement and a lead accredited professional. She's a registered architect with 20 years experience in residential and commercial markets. She's planning this project in Evanston, and then also some LEED Platinum planned homes across the street. So thank you very much for sharing this information with us, Sarah. So this is the building at in Evanston that Sarah is going to rehab. Can you tell us about it, Sarah?
I think she was muted, Chuck. I think she was trying to talk and mute it.
She's unmuted, and it says she's on video, so I'm not sure why that is. Sarah?
So this is the building. It was as in its existing state with used to be a carry out.
Hello.
Yeah, hi, Sarah. Please tell us about your project.
Hi. This is a multi-family, multi-use building at the corner of Hewitt and Fairfield in Evanston, Ohio. We have the property across the street where we plan on putting 5 LEED Platinum homes. And we're, as Chuck said, interested in doing the modular builds on those. And when this property became available, we couldn't help but snatch it up, decided that we wanted to fix up this entire corner and really make a difference in the heart of the neighborhood. This corner in Evanston was really the heart of the nefarious activity that was happening in the neighborhood. So we're really pleased to be able to get in there and just be in there every day, make a difference. So this project, we went in naively thinking we would rehab 6 apartments and the lower level to be our office space. And we would offer it up for Section 8 housing. But luckily the port owned the building. So you have to design the building. You have to come up with all of your costs. You have to pitch the building before you're even allowed to purchase it. Those plans did not work out. You cannot, as far as I can tell, without some serious help from outside sources, to low-income housing. And so what we did is we took a more, but we thought outside the box, and we took those 6 apartments and made them into 10 one-bedroom apartments. We got really close with the financing at that point. There were a couple 2-bedroom apartments that we were able to split in half, and a couple of very big 1-bedroom apartments we took 2 and made 3 out of. But in all of the work that we did, we found out we were just a little bit shy of our numbers. So we carved out an 11th studio apartment. So when we pitched this to the port, there were at least 2 developers that had pitched before us, and possibly more, and nobody could make the numbers work. So we're very happy that we're able to figure out a way to save this building because it was going to be raised. The lower level is the plan north of the lower level is our office, as I said, and then we've got 2 apartments in the back half plus the studio, 5 apartments on the second floor there to the left, and 3 apartments on the third floor to your right. So you can see their living space is a pretty basic kitchen, living area, full bedroom, and full baths, of course, in each unit. And part of the reason we wanted to do LEED, I mean, I'm a LEED AP, and so that's very important to me on every level. But in this case in particular, we still needed to make these units affordable. We're still in a neighborhood where the units need to be affordable. And the LEED designation, LEED Silver in particular, allows us to get a tax abatement from the city, a better one than we would have been able to receive without the LEED designation. And it also helps with our financing. We're able to get a green loan for 20% of our financing. So we're able to get a higher level of loan to value than you would normally be able to get through standard financing. So I think Jeremy's going to talk a little bit about some of the ways that we were able to tackle this building and make it not just LEED Silver, but how can it ways that it makes sense in several ways besides just getting those LEED designation points.
And it's all electric building, isn't it? No gas.
No gas, right. Jeremy was really the one that was able to get the gas out of the building, and I think he's planning on speaking to that point. But from my perspective, getting that going down to electric also gets rid of a lot of penetrations in the walls and in the roof, which makes it a long-term solution. So what I didn't say is I am the owner, architect, builder, and future tenant of the building. So I'm seeing this building in a completely different way than anything I've ever worked on before. So, how do you get it cheap enough that you can build it? And then, but also look at the very long-term effects because you're going to hold on to it, indefinitely. Jeremy?
Sure. So some of the there were several design challenges when we planned the HVAC for this project. And one of those was the building was 12 inches of brick on the exterior walls. And they were planning on using InsoFast product for insulating the exterior walls. So both of these things made it a challenge to design a ducted system, and also made it a challenge for using any kind of gas furnace that would need a flue that would go out the wall or anything like that. And then another challenge that was also introduced was because of the insulation and air sealing that was being done to keep the or to meet the project LEED certification goals, in conjunction with the fact that these were very small units compared to your typical apartment style living unit, it made the heating and air conditioning load very low in terms of what you needed to heat and cool the building. So we needed to be able to match that load, because if you get the system too big, then you end up causing building durability issues and it won't function right. It'll cycle on and off and things like that. So all of these units were under 1 ton of heating and cooling, which means they were under 12,000 BTUs needed for heating and cooling. Another challenge that comes along with low load buildings in general, whether it's these type of buildings, a brick building, a brand new building, anything that has a very low heating and cooling load in the United States, you end up having challenges to manage the humidity correctly. So all of these challenges led us to look at inverter style ductless heat pumps, which are also commonly known as mini splits. Mitsubishi is one of our partner brands, and they have one of the most robust inverter ductless equipment lines in today's market. They also offer a lot of diversity in the size and type that many other brands don't have. So among that diversity, we ended up finding the perfect fit for these units. It was a 9,000 BTU, which matched the load in these buildings perfectly. Easy fit ductless mini split. And so what that means is these ductless units are designed to fit in a 16 on center joist space, so you don't need a lot of room above. And this achieved 2 things. One, it kept us from having to run ductwork, which was one of the challenges we were trying to avoid, but it also kept the mini splits off the walls, which in units of this size becomes a big advantage because you don't have a lot of wall space to begin with. So they fit perfectly in the ceiling of each unit, and they flush mount with the ceiling finish, so you barely even notice them. If we could go to the next slide, we have a couple pictures of it that you guys could see. There, if you look at the top left-hand corner, you see just, it's really even kind of hard to notice if you're not looking at it, but right up in the left-hand corner to the right of the recording button, you'll see where it just says, that's it. That's the unit that would heat and cool these units. So once we did that, that solved that problem, but we still needed to get the air into the closed door rooms, being the bedrooms. So we used in-wall transfer fans that will actually transfer the air from room to room without actually having to run ductwork into each room. And so this is an innovative HVAC design strategy that's mostly used in passive home, but we've been able to apply it to LEED buildings and other kinds of low load homes that don't meet passive standard, but still have tight enough structures that you don't have to worry about the air getting taken away by some kind of in-home current or something like that, which happens in a lot of more buildings that aren't built as tight and are looser. The other thing that you see to the right is the dehumidifier, the in-wall dehumidifier. So that is actually solving our humidity problem. Those are made for units that don't have any ductwork or have small areas to serve, and they go right into the wall and they run all the time, and it actually just provides dehumidification 24 hours a day and maintains a relative humidity set point. The last thing that you see there is the Brown bathroom exhaust fan, which typically we try to stay away from an exhaust only ventilation strategy in these tighter buildings, but because we're using the dehumidification and the inverter heat pumps, it allowed us to feel comfortable using an exhaust only ventilation strategy. And we could use the bath fan to double as the ventilation, as a piece of equipment that provided the ventilation. So it was a win-win. We didn't have to have a separate piece of equipment for ventilation, and it went right out the wall in the bathrooms because they're all happen to be like on the exterior walls basically. So one of the other big wins that they alluded to with this design strategy was the ability to keep the project all electric, which eliminated the need to pay to have gas services run and any of the associated penetrations that come along with getting gas into these buildings and into these units. And it also future-proofed the project because the world in general is moving away from fossil fuels and we're moving into an era of electrification. So this building tracks with that current building trend that we're seeing worldwide and
Jeremy,
also in parts of the US. Yes, Chuck.
does the humidifier also humidify the air in the winter?
No, sir, it's a dehumidification only, and that's one of the bigger challenges. Usually in tight buildings, you don't have to worry about providing humidity near as much as you do as removing humidity in the shoulder seasons
Yeah,
when the
okay,
air
I
conditioning's
see.
not running and things like that. Usually
So
the bigger
regular
challenge.
cooking and showering and
Exactly, yeah, because it just all,
occupancy will
exactly.
humidify the air.
Correct. It all just ends up getting trapped in the units. So you need to have some way to get rid of all that. So that's the perfect solution for these type of units.
And what type of a filter? Is there a filter unit in that bath that you have to change? An
And
air filter?
there's a MERV rated filter that comes in the ductless unit itself, but
I
in the
see.
bath fan, no,
Okay, that's
there's
where
no
it is.
filter in the bath fan. No.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yes, sir. And this is just a layout of showing you. So if you see where it says 9K, that's where each one of the units are placed at. The little 33s are each one of the in-wall units that we have. And then the little square boxes that say Brone are the fans that go out. And the little boxes with the arrows are where the transfer fans are that are moving the air. So that just gives you an idea of how the whole entire design was structured. So everything works together. That is all I have for you.
Okay. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear.
Sounds great.
So, oh, there we go. Okay, so I wanted to talk a little bit about the insulation of the building. As you know by now, the walls are completely, the exterior walls are made of brick, 12 inches of brick. So it's all masonry. And so we were looking for a solution that was going to help us not only frame out the exterior walls, but also to insulate that properly. So we had a couple of options that we considered. One, we could attach furring strips and do just like a relatively thin layer of rigid foam, or we could actually frame out the exterior walls with 2x4 studs, but then we lose a lot of space and an already pretty tight layout. So we found out, we've discovered this InsoFast material, which is a rigid foam insulation. It's 2 inches thick, and it has built in like a very durable, heavy duty plastic stud in the material. So they come in 2 foot by 4 foot panels. They're interlocking, and it provides a moisture barrier and an R8.5 insulation. And it's pretty simple to apply. I think they were invented or developed to for people to be able to finish out basement spaces, so up against the concrete wall. And you see in this slide here, the back of the panel, you can see the black lines there. Those are the back of the studs that are built into the foam, and you just you attach it to the wall with a construction adhesive. This is the one that they recommend. So it's as simple as that, really. You just, and since it's foam, it can be trimmed or cut with an extended blade, the utility knife. You put a bead of the adhesive on each of the studs and adhere it to the wall. And then another panel will fit and interlock into the side by side and also up and down. So they recommend a running bond pattern to offset the joints. We've done a little bit just sort of playing around with it. We're not to that phase yet in the project, but we have just sort of experimented with it. And it does appear to be as simple as they have advertised. So one of the things that you have to consider is, like you'll see in this slide here, when you install this, they recommend that you put the InsoFast on the wall first and then run your electric after. And there are little raceways in the back of the foam to run the wire. And then you can see there in the bottom left of that slide where they put a junction box. You adhere the junction box to the wall, to the masonry. You run your power, your Romex, and then they recommend foaming around the box there. Let the foam cure, and then just slice it off there so it's flush with the InsoFast when you're finished. So it's a really nice solution for that, to keep it airtight. This is the inside of our unit, one of our units there. So you can see there's quite a bit of square footage. We have about, I think it's around 5,000 square feet of exterior walls. So this is it's going to be quite an endeavor. The material cost, you can source it. There's one of 3 places locally, but Menards carries it, or you can order it through Menards, and it's about $2.50 a square foot.
Well,
So
thanks, Bill.
it's
for
not-
answering that.
and then you have the adhesive, right? So it's not super cheap or anything, but it's going to save a lot of time, and that I would be normally spending framing and then coming back and insulating. And the beauty of this product is that it's a continuous insulation, so it should do a great job of keeping the air infiltration down. When you install it, you come back, they show you, they have great videos on their website. They shows you how to make sure that, like, you use spray foam insulation at the base of the panels where it meets the floor, and also in the corners, and any gaps that may have come up or appeared, or if you have something out of level, you're able to use spray foam insulation to fill those gaps. And really, it's so far it really looks promising, and we're looking forward to using this product throughout the building. And I'll report back to you on that and see how it goes in a
Yeah,
couple
Bill,
months.
Jeremy told me you were using 5 air changes per hour as your design air changes per hour. So we'll see how close you get to it.
I think David Sue, do you want to introduce David?
David Sue.
Thanks, Bill. That's great. Thanks. My name is David Sue. I am the multifamily project manager for Green Building Consulting. We can go to the next slide, please. Oh, okay. Looks like there might be a missing slide, but Green Building Consulting is a third-party consulting company for residential construction projects seeking green certifications. And in doing so, we hope to educate about green practices while we consult, verify, and ultimately certify to the green program that is being pursued. Green Building Consulting provides many services. We are a LEED for Homes provider. Our rater network can provide HERS ratings, Energy Star, LEED, Enterprise Green Communities, and National Green Building Standard Verification, code compliance, and more. We're based in Cincinnati, and we have projects spread throughout Ohio and the country. With branches in Cleveland and Knoxville, we continue to expand and hope teams build projects that will utilize sustainable building materials and practices, be more energy efficient, and be healthier to live in. So before I jump into the 3244 Fairfield and touch on the LEED expectations of that project, I'd like to start by going over how multifamily buildings work with LEED. Depending on the number of stories and units of a building, multifamily projects can be certified in different ways. The first way is LEED v4.1. This is the newest standard for single-family homes in the US and is used to certify multifamily buildings that have 3 or less units. This certifies only the units within the building and not the building as a whole, as it does not look at common areas for certification. Like any update, v4.1 has added, updated, and removed some credits in hopes to create a more accessible and sustainable program. LEED v4 low rise is for 1 to 3 story buildings. These buildings are required to meet the Energy Star Certified Homes version 3 program and have a HERS index score below the target, which is based on the Energy Star reference design. These do not need to be commissioned, but will need to meet the ASHRAE 62.1 2010 sections 4 through 7 for all non-unit spaces, as well as fill out an indoor air quality calculator for common and commercial spaces. LEED V4 mid-rise is for 4 to 8 story buildings. These buildings do not have to meet the Energy Star certified version 3, but they do have to show a 5% improvement over ASHRAE standard 90.1-2010 Appendix G. These buildings will have to be commissioned either through the Energy Star testing and verification protocols or by prescriptive commissioning path. Similar to the low rise, these buildings will have to have all non-unit spaces adhere to ASHRAE 62.1-2010. Next slide, please. So multifamily LEED projects are unique in a few ways. One major point of emphasis for multifamily projects is the need to completely air seal units as if one were air sealing a single family home's exterior. Build it tight, ventilate it right is a saying one may hear that certainly applies to all energy efficient buildings, but it also applies to the individual units inside a multifamily building. Some typical multifamily LEED credits include points for the size of the apartment compared to a LEED reference design. These points are given through what is called a LEED home size adjustment, and typically with these smaller units, they're eligible for efficient hot water distribution credit. Other typical items for all LEED projects include WaterSense plumbing fixtures that meet a maximum of 1.0 gallons per minute laboratory faucets, 1.1 gallon per flush toilets, 1.5 gallon per minute shower heads. Insulation and drywall with recycled content are also common LEED credits that are often sought.
Yeah, David, I had
Yeah.
a question for you, David.
Sure.
Would you explain a little bit about optimizing an HVAC system? I mean, that we're talking about the distance from the water heater.
Sure. So I will go into that in a couple slides if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Basically, the distance is going to look at the volume of water that is used from that will be held in the pipe from the water heater all the way to the furthest fixture. And I have some slides later on that will kind of help go through that process.
Well, good. Yeah, it's very important that you emphasize the air sealing. It's really needs to be done right the first time early in a project.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. Okay, great. For our market in Cincinnati, there are plenty of buildings that can be renovated, converted into apartments, helping reuse the embodied energy in these structures. LEED provides projects the opportunity for existing foundations, facades, and floors to be eligible for points by reusing undamaged materials. When these materials are not altered, unaltered areas may have allowances for some Energy Star items. Generally, these renovated projects are located in popular areas that allow residents better walkability for health and travel. Renovated projects are not without challenges. Projects may not be able to utilize deteriorated materials and will sometimes have to reinforce areas to maintain structural integrity or replace damaged materials. From a building science perspective, sometimes existing conditions limit conventional installation or MEP installation. And so creative solutions must be found, similar to looking at the InsoFast installation. Again, I'll emphasize air sealing, and more air sealing. Whether it's from a ceiling below, floor above, demising, or exterior walls, air sealing is an absolute must for LEED certification, especially in rehab projects. Next slide, please. Okay, so here are the current points for the 3244 Fairfield project. We currently have 55 planned points for the LEED certification. It's LEED Silver certification. Some credits like the location and transportation points are locked in early in the process, while others will need to be verified when the units are move-in ready. LEED requires 2 inspections for certification, 1 visit for the thermal bypass inspection, which looks at air sealing, insulation, installation, and rough-ins for HVAC. This inspection is done after insulation, but before drywall. The second inspection is when the unit is move-in ready. This final inspection uses a blower door test to ensure the unit is air sealed properly and tests ducts for leakage to the outside. The green radar will also ensure correct fixtures and appliances are installed. Next slide, please. For a truly integrated process, the design and builder and consulting team have worked to help establish a baseline of expectations about this project. A Green Raider and I went out to the site during the end of the demo to help determine where potentially problematic areas might be found. Areas that would need special attention include the cantilevered windows, the ceiling joists, and the unit to hallway walls. In identifying these early as a team, strategies can be developed to help mitigate potential air leakage issues before the areas are covered. Next slide, please. As mentioned, in smaller multifamily units, efficient hot water distribution is often claimed. This building was close to receiving that the credit from the beginning, but a couple of the units were not within the maximum threshold. Copper piping was originally planned for plumbing, and after initial review, a couple of the units were found to be over the maximum allowable volume for this credit. Since we caught this issue early, we were able to change the plumbing piping to PEX, which has a smaller diameter, and actually relocate one of the hot water heaters to comply with this credit. Through this integrated process, we were able to come to a solution that will be more energy efficient and help the resident receive hot water more quickly. Next slide, please. All rehab projects have unique opportunities and challenges, and 3244 Fairfield is no exception. As noted before, existing walls in the roof are extremely thick, and the team wanted to limit the amount of penetrations through this exterior shell. With this in mind, it was determined these units would be all electric, including this ventless washer and dryer. In looking towards the future, all electric has its benefits of allowing 100% renewable, as mentioned before. This gives you some insight into the LEED and multifamily projects and how we were able to discuss and approach LEED items with regards to the 3244 Fairfield project.
Yeah,
There's
David,
a lot
I had
to verify.
a question for you, David. Now, the walls are 12 inches thick. That's called 3 brick thick, and that's supposed to be the ideal thermal mass for our latitude here in Cincinnati, where the heating in the spring and the fall is evenly grows through and out of the building every day. Was that was there any energy model that was used on the building that take advantage of that characteristic?
Well, to my knowledge, we tried to figure out something to utilize that, but some of the things where you have an existing building that you need certain changes to that building, whether it's penetrations for venting or this sort of thing, it wasn't ideal to utilize that in the way that you would normally utilize a new construction project.
Well, thanks. Yeah, but that's an interesting fact about this building.
Yeah, so I think Sarah is going to talk about the tax abatement and how the project came to be from a finance perspective next.
I guess you're on mute, Sarah. Well, Sarah will get back with his,
Can
you
you hear me now?
yeah, we can hear you, Sarah. Go ahead.
Okay. My computer keeps randomly switching my system. I'm so sorry about that. If you could go back just one slide to the washer dryer. So this was something that was interesting. You know, with LEED, you have to figure out what you're doing up front, which is a little different than how you would normally work in a project. And the washer dryer question coming up, we wanted to be able to offer that washer dryer in every unit. To keep it small, we were thinking stackable. The idea, and I think Green Building Consulting came up with a low boy hot water heater, you know, keeping with the electric. So they're really short. And then we were going to put it above the unit. But then our engineers at Herndon came up with the combination washer dryer. This solved a lot of problems for us. So you put your clothes in and they come out dry. There's no separate dryer. So you don't need a 220 line. It's on a regular 120 line with a 20 amp service. And when we reduced that load, we were able to reduce the size of the panel in every apartment. And we were able to reduce the load coming into the building. So it saved a lot of money on top of on top of it just being a great solution, because now we have space between the washer dryer and the low boy water heater, but it's also ventless. So you're not running vents outside the building for this unit. So again, that long term, it's electric. There's less chance of water penetration through the vents. And that lower power was really a great solution. So I hope they work great. They're getting 4-star ratings on Home Depot and Lowe's, and I'm kind of thinking about putting one on the second floor of my house. So the tax abatement. So this was an interesting process. Cincinnati's got a great tax abatement, and it's a little bit more complex with a commercial project than it is residential. It is not what do I want to say? It's not a sure thing. You know, residential is you do the project and then you submit and then you get your tax abatement. For commercial, you have to do everything up front. I don't know if you want to go to the next slide, but the tax abatement is one of the ways to help with gap funding. So when a project is going to cost more than what you could financially feasibly do the project, the tax abatement steps in to help make that project happen. So that's really the case on this one. We could not have done this project without the abatement. The finances simply did not work. And one of the important things I think about the tax abatement, I think it's really misunderstood, especially the commercial tax abatement, is that you are not the city is not losing any taxes at all. So you start with the amount of taxes that you were paying before you improved the value of the building. And then there's an abatement on the improved value. And even that is not a total abatement. So I think the next slide shows it. So the stripy part at the bottom, that's what you would have been paying in your taxes anyway. You still have to pay that. And then that 25% school board taxes, you're still paying the school board taxes. So we are not taking any money away from the schools when we get the abatement. The 15% is a voluntary tax incentive contribution agreement. That is known as the VTICA, and that is a voluntary contribution back. So we say we will give back 15% of our tax abatement, and that goes to low-income housing and to neighborhood redevelopment. And then you have your abated taxes on top of that. So that it's not a free ride. The Department of Economic Development has a lot of different ways to help developers in town. The commercial CRA, which is what we're talking about, is just one of them. I mean, that's the one that we're utilizing. And then the timeline. So the application is pretty significant. There's a lot that you have to do up front. You have to get a commitment on financing. So you have to get everything, all your ducks in a row. You have to have your plans. You have to have your bids. You have to know what it's going to cost. You know what your operating expenses are going to be. All of that goes in for review. And then it's a negotiation after that. So they decide based on how well you present your case and what kind of benefit you're going to bring to the city, how much of a tax abatement you'll receive. And there's a point system, that VTICA point system that we'll talk about later. So once we get that agreed to, it goes into legal, and then it goes to the budget committee, and then it goes to city council approval. And all of that has to happen before day one of construction.
Yes, that's very true. And that's very different from the homes. LEED for homes is like you said, you build it to LEED standards, you get the certificate, you take it to the city, they give you the tax abatement. But all the planning has to be done up front in a commercial project.
Right. And ours, of course, we were doing it during the pandemic. So everything shut down for a few months, and we just waited with bated breath until everything opened back up and we could have our council meetings and whatnot. But Greg Kohlers, who we've been working with the city, and he's been amazing, absolutely amazing. I'm not going to bore you going through this complicated slide. I think this is more for people who are interested in trying to understand how the project or the process works, and I'm happy to talk it offline or maybe at the end.
And, I gave a link to this whole presentation. You can download it from the city's website on the title slide.
Great. And then this is the first half of the first page of the application. And this is everything that you need to submit in order to apply for the abatement. So they actually have it highlighted that there's an application fee. I guess they want to make sure everybody knows that up front. But this just kind of goes through what I talked about before. You have to have your pro forma, you have to have your numbers, you have to, you also have to talk about the job creation. So how many jobs are you bringing to the city short term, and how many are you bringing long term, and what is the overall impact of the city for the city going to be? So the next slide. And then this is the VTICA point analysis. So the but-for analysis, what that means is, but for this tax abatement, this project wouldn't happen. And that's what the Department of Community and Economic Development decides. Would this project happen if we didn't have the tax abatement? In our case, they decided it would not. So that gave us 3 points. You can see being LEED certified doesn't get you any points. You have to be at least LEED silver. And then if you go up to gold and platinum, you get a couple extra points. And then that VTICA, that voluntary contribution back to the city, that gives you a total of 8 points. So you're doing, you're going to get a little bit less in the tax abatement, but then that also adds, it increases your rate and the length of time. So for us, the LEED silver was that sweet spot where we were able to get the 14 points in the left-hand column. And that gets us a 15-year tax abatement at 60%. I know there's questions in the chat. If there's, I'm gonna let Chuck.
No,
or
we're
Mary Ellen.
covering those questions.
Okay.
Okay, Sarah.
Good. I can't talk and read at the same time.
But that's
absolutely
a
useless.
interesting thing. I didn't know that the commercial tax abatement could go up to 15 years. So that's very good news.
It is very good news. And it's like I said, it's one of the reasons we were able to make the decision to do LEED on the project. You know, to do LEED does cost more money. You have the fees that are associated with it, and then you have a little higher level of insulation and HVAC, et cetera, that you have to do, and that increases your costs. So overall, the city is going to be, is going to have better housing, more comfortable housing, and there's going to be less stress on the water and sewer because we're using, low flow fixtures. There's less stress on the electrical system. Like Jeremy said, everything's going electric. So we're setting ourselves up for solar or wind power in the future. So, I think it's a really huge benefit to the city in general.
Yeah, I think the city's gotten a much higher quality of housing stock since the tax abatement came into play. I've known builders that have moved to Cincinnati to do all their building inside the city because that tax abatement made their homes so much more appealing.
Yep, we need it.
So somebody was asking what rental range are you now predicting since your Section 8 didn't pan out?
Yeah, we're predicting $975 a month, which is not cheap, but it's also not, I wouldn't exactly call that market rate. It's considered affordable in that someone that makes 80% of the median income could rent it and not go over 30% of their income renting it.
Uh-huh. And you're tell us some more about the LEED Platinum homes that you have planned for right across the street from this project.
Oh, okay, thanks. We have land where three buildings, 2 multifamilies and 1 single family were raised. We're able to split that into 5 lots, and we'll be putting in 5 approximately 2,000 square foot LEED Platinum homes, 3 bedroom, 3 bath. And the first one is permitted, but when when the pandemic hit and financing got a little tight, and then this building came available, we kind of switched our focus financially. But if anybody's out there who wants a LEED Platinum home in Cincinnati, it is permitted and ready to go. So let's talk.
Well, we'll probably have a chance to have those homes on the green home tours as well. There's another question. Were there parking and stormwater control management requirements that had to be addressed?
So on the multifamily, we had to get 4 zoning variances. We had to get a variance for increasing the number of units within the walls. We had to get a variance for changing the former pony keg to an office space. We had to get a variance because we wanted to put our signage on the windows, and that wasn't allowed for. It's a non-conforming use in the neighborhood. And then because it's a residential use, the parking, what we would have been required to have had 2 parking spaces per residence plus office parking. So there's no feasible way to do it without the variance. As far as stormwater, we have been in touch with MSD, both on the single families and the multifamilies. So we, stormwater control management. I guess I'd like to know what you mean exactly by control management. We're not building anything on the multifamily lot, so that essentially doesn't change. For the single families, there will be control management.
I think that answers the question. Well, it's very exciting that it'll transform the little neighborhood inside a neighborhood around this, saving this beautiful building. And we're trying to encourage other developers to take on some similar projects. Evanston has a beautiful housing stock. It's well worth saving.
I saw, sorry. I saw a question about the cost of the InSoFast. I'm not sure if anyway, I mentioned it in the presentation, but it's around $2.50 a square foot for that product, and then in addition to the adhesive and any spray foam that you would be using as well. So.
Well, we have another question about
the lateral for the stormwater.
separate lateral for stormwater into the main.
Well, I know, I mean, there is an existing stormwater drain for the building at 3244. So it's probably a combination sewer, but I intend to reuse the existing underground lateral there for the stormwater.
And we have another question. Is this a flat roof project? Can they put solar panels on that roof in the future?
I'm getting some feedback. Hold on. Are you on?
So it is a flat roof, right?
You're good.
Oh. No.
Sarah,
you got
you
some
and Bill
feedback.
are in the same space that might be causing the feedback.
We still can't hear. So Sarah's pulling up the slides that might cover that point about the flat roof.
Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. Yeah, we are in the same room. It is a flat roof. One of the ideas that we had initially was going with solar, or maybe doing having the the owner, which is also us, but pay utilities for a higher cost for the rents. But we just don't feel like we're in a space where Cincinnati's advanced enough to take that into consideration, that people would pay higher rent, understanding that they don't have to pay utilities. So we are separating out the utilities individually, and therefore the solar doesn't pay for itself. But we are going to look at putting solar in for the office, because we think we might be able to make that pencil.
So you're putting the electric lines up to the roof ready to install solar if you want to.
Yeah, we'll have it like a chase available for that. We also have the mini splits, the air conditioning units are all out on the roof, which is just terribly convenient to have a nice flat roof to work with. But I would also love to talk to someone if they know anything about wind in Cincinnati, because if we could get some small units up there, I think that would be great.
Well, Bill, there's a question for you, Bill, about adhesive, and how do you know it's compatible with the existing wall surface?
Hold on.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a good question. So we have a lot of the interior of the walls have been finished with plaster. And so we have experimented with that. This Loctite product is compatible with that, with the plaster. So there are going to be some walls where we're going up against the brick masonry directly, where we had to, maybe there was a wall where we had to remove some of the plaster, the existing plaster. So in those situations, we will also use a mechanical fastener. So probably a Tapcon, or I've seen that you can also use a masonry nail. You just have to get like a 3-inch masonry nail to go through the studs into the brick. So that's how we'll handle that. And then sometimes the walls are, they're obviously they're not going to be all perfectly plumb. So there'll be some hollow parts, and they recommend kind of going around and tapping where there's it could be a hollow void behind the walls. And then in that instance, you would drill a small hole into that area and then fill that with some spray foam. So they treat it sort of like a shim, you're shimming with a foam product instead. So, but that also serves as an adhesive as well.
Well, like I said, we're looking forward to the blower door test results. Good luck.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, sure. The only other questions in the
I see
chat
there's a
were
question about flat roofs and snow.
right.
I can't hear Chuck. Did you? Oh, you turned it off.
I can turn my volume back on.
No, I got it. Sorry. We're really, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Sorry about that. So the issue with snow on the flat roof, it's a flat roof is sort of a misnomer. It's a low slope roof, but so there is a constant pitch to the roof. But as far as like having the units on the roof, those will be built up on a curb. So they'll be, or really more like a rail on the roof. So that'll keep the required distance from the roof surface to the units themselves. So that prevents any complications with snow buildup and preventing airflow around the units. The roof does have parapets on the west side of the building, and on one of the one or two actually. Well, one of the bay windows also has a parapet that extends up. So we're having a new Epdm roof installed sort of as we speak, actually. So they'll flash into the parapets. On the one above the bay window, they're gonna extend the rubber up more or less to the top, or maybe even over, and then recap that with some brake metal.
Well, great. Well, thank you very much, Bill. We'll just wrap up the session now, the tour. Thanks for everybody. Our next tour in November will be of the Sykes Residence. It's a new residential construction in Clifton, Ohio, and we're already planning our tours for 2022, which will be we'll be going back to in-person tours. So
Fantastic. Thank you, Chuck. Yeah, so thank you all for taking part in today's talk. We wanted to thank Sarah Kleiner, Jeremy Begley, Bill Groth, and David Sue, and of course, Chuck. Thank you so much. We also wanted to offer our congratulations to Cincinnati Scholar House. They were a winner there in Cincinnati for a 2021 Lead Homes Award for affordable housing, which was fantastic. And
Cool.
we are going to make sure you have the contact information for all our speakers today. We'll follow up with this presentation with a recording as well as the PowerPoint. And as Chuck mentioned, we do have the registration for the Sykes Residence for our November tour, so be sure to join us for that as well. So thank you again. Thank you to all of our speakers. Thank you, Chuck. Thank you to our sponsors. And thank you, of course, to all of our attendees. Thank you for your wonderful questions as well. So we really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Bye-bye.